like that it's just a picture of a little U.S. soldier dressed in all white and a little U.S. soldier just in red sitting on the shoulders of these rebels like, hey, go ahead, take them out. Yeah. You know you want to do it. And the other guy's like, don't do it. You'll destabilize the region.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast.
Yes, welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast, everybody. Now, you may be a little shocked to hear a voice that you're not accustomed to, a better voice, some would say, more masculine, maybe a little pronunciation, probably a better vocabulary, you say to yourselves, and you'd be right. Because this is the voice of Brian McWilliams instead of Mark Claire, who you might rightly love, but could not be here with us tonight. He's off combing his long, luxurious blonde locks. So I am here instead hosting this debate recap show, the 10th debate. My God, the 10th debate! But we're here. Let's keep a positive outlook. And I'm not alone. No, I am not alone here. I brought with me some Liberty compatriots I will be bringing in. The first of which resides right in Ohio, where one candidate on stage would not let us forget was his home state, that being John Kasich. Let's welcome Rico. Rico, what's up, buddy?
OH!
Ayo!
I feel like a sense of deja vu for some reason, but
well, I can't pull back the curtain to divulge the technical issues we had trying to record this podcast the first time. But you know, like a twin where like one of them dies, but the second one lives and it's better. That's what this podcast will be like.
Yeah, so let's go with that, and I'll save the jokes I already made the first time because they really weren't that good. Anyways, moving on.
There's your test run. What are you drinking over there, by the way?
We'll say I'm drinking some Modelo.
Perfect. Better the second time around. All right, excellent. I'd also like to bring in the fabulous Frenchman from Philadelphia, Mr. J.B. Lubin.
Once again, thank you for the kind intro.
I have no problem introing you all you like, sir. Let me know what liquor you're putting into your body.
I have a nice tequila on ice, and I also have a beer on the side, too. I'm finishing up from the debate. Some Old Forge Porter.
Yeah.
Made right here in Pennsylvania.
What was that horrible tequila drink you had a few debates ago?
It was like
tequila and some disgusting juice, like orange.
It wasn't
juice.
that bad. It was tequila, ginger ale, and V8 Splash. Not V8, mind you. When I re-listened to the pod, you thought it was like tomato juice V8. V8 Splash, which is just fruit juice.
That still
sounds awful. Did you go
awful.
on like webtender.com and pick the lowest rated drink and work your way up?
No, I just open up my fridge and whatever's cold, I just dump in there sometimes.
The GOP was boasting about their diversity on stage, but the diversity can really be found in JB's drink selection.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just as horrible as our candidates. All right. I'll bring in the last member of this group. Howie Snowdon, are you in the house?
I am in the house. Excellent. I am not drinking tonight, though. Getting over some bronchitis, and during the last Democratic debate, I had a hard enough time staying awake drinking. I thought it might be best to forego tonight and just have a little bit of coffee.
Jeez, you gonna make it through the podcast? You sound a little rough there.
No. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just been,
right. Well, no drinks for you then. Hopefully, at least you can sip on some Robitussin, maybe some NyQuil, get a little hammered, a little robo-tripping.
Oh, yeah, I've got some of the cough medicine with codeine for afterwards.
Yeah, don't even wait till afterwards, man. Bring it out. Let your freak flag fly. All right, gentlemen, before we begin, I just want to give a quick shout out and just tell everybody that, you know, if you like this podcast, you can support it in various ways. You can mail me money directly. You can get a tattoo of lionsofliberty.com on your forearm. Show it to everybody. Really encourage them to come out here. But more than that, you can also help our site out by going to libertymaniacs.com. And if you put in the code Lions of Liberty, you get 10% off all these crazy Liberty t-shirts. And you know what? We're going to have our own Liberty t-shirts coming very soon by your friends at Lions of Liberty. So check that out. We'll let you know as soon as those go out there. All right. Now, on to the debate.
Well, let me say, just starting off, you've already done a better job moderating this podcast than Wolf did the entire night. Because I think that was a central theme of the evening. It was complete chaos during
He let Ted Cruz walk all over him like Ted Cruz would stop him like, Wolf, listen, I need to respond to this. I need to talk. Wolf would just be like, okay.
No, he would say no like 3 times, and he'd be like, okay. As long as Ted asked him enough times, then he would give in. It was a pathetic job, Wolf. Come on.
It was awful. It was like seriously watching like a referee just run around the stage in WWE, and then just Ted Cruz just hitting him with chairs.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, this is like a no holds barred match in WWE where the ref just kind of throws up his arms and gives up.
He's passed out.
There was one point between like Rubio and Trump where I thought that they might actually get in a fight. It was getting crazy.
They kept going back and forth. There's like, it was like, oh, you're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself. And then Donald's like, no, you repeat yourself. Is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
That was a great moment. But you know what? Hey, can we give a quick round of applause to Ben Carson for defeating his biggest nemesis of the night, which of course is the curtains at the side of the stage?
He did know to walk all the way out to the stage, and the stage was the place that they were holding the debate. So good job, Ben.
Congratulations,
Do you guys
Ben.
think this will be the last time we see Dr. Carson at the debates?
Did we really even see him tonight? What did he talk for, like 40 seconds?
Yeah.
He barely got any time, but he didn't really deserve any time.
Yeah, true. Well, he did that. He had that long diatribe where he was like, I never get to speak, so I'm going to say all my points all at once in one run-on sentence.
That's basically what he did, though. Like the last 4 topics they discussed that he didn't get to input on, he just basically said all his positions on them all at once.
I love it. I want every candidate to do that. Just think how short these debates would be.
Half an hour. Done. Great.
I didn't like when he did the whining about him not getting any time and all that crap. Like that just makes you look weak and bad.
True.
That was a Jeb Bush strategy. Excuse me, they mentioned my name. I get to talk, right?
I did like that time when he was like, "Will someone please attack me?" I thought that was hilarious.
That was funny. I want at the end of this, I want to ask who had the line of the night, and I'll throw out some candidates. But that was definitely up there for one of the lines of the night.
Shouldn't someone have said, like, if we attack you, does that mean you're going to stab us? That would have been a good comment.
That would have been amazing. Or attack us with a hammer. Didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's what he did. I forgot exactly what he did.
No, he did both. He tried to stab a guy, it got blocked by the belt buckle, and he tried to hit his mother in the head with a hammer.
But those healing hands of his, when they're not hurting, they're healing. Hilarious.
That's all you can hope for.
Well, you know what? At least there was a doctor in the room during the debate tonight, because this had to be the longest amount of time a debate went on without a commercial break so people could go to the bathroom. Like, I swear to God, I thought I was going to die. And at least 4 people in the audience had to have had bladders explode during that debate.
I'm not sure why you
my old man bladder. I can't go for over an hour anymore.
I just went to the bathroom when I had to. I don't know why you were not doing that. But
I have a responsibility to the people, man. I'm hosting this thing. This is a huge responsibility. There's tens of people listening to this.
Well, let me recap. The first hour, immigration.
Yeah.
That's all. So,
let's talk about it.
Speaking of the tens of people listening to this, I don't know. This, I think, was probably my line of the night. What was the guy's name? Hewitt or whatever?
Yeah.
He was criticizing Trump for something.
Hey,
and
save your line of the night for the end when I ask about the line of the night.
Right.
I'm not Wolf Blitzer up here. You can't just trot all over this show. I'm running this show.
All right.
You will obey. All right, let's talk immigration. How about this starting off? I got a few points that I want to make about it, but just overall, what would you guys say? Like, whose platform do you like best? And Howie, I'll let you go first. Who do you think's best on immigration, depending on what they said on this debate?
I think maybe Kasich, because he's at least not for rounding everybody up, kicking people out. Like, I really don't think that illegal immigration is that huge of an issue that they're trying to make it out to be. I mean, I don't want terrorists or murderers coming here either, but that's such a small minority. I think I have a traditional libertarian position where I want, peaceful people to be able to cross borders freely. Like, you should be able to go and live and work wherever you want. It shouldn't be so hard to get to come in here.
I agree. I mean, of course, Trump would say that, the rapists and the murderers are coming across.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we need to know who's coming in. So if the process wasn't such a pain in the ass, perhaps more people would come legally. And I mean, we just, run through, are they in the terrorist database, or have they been like charged with murder in their country of record? Like, if not, come on in and work. They don't take people's job. It's not like a zero-sum game. Like, we can create more and do more. I don't know. I'm all for people that want to live in America and make better lives for themselves coming.
So you're
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I do, for some reason, I do want to have the wall. I think of it as like the wall in the North in Game of Thrones. It just seems so cool if we could have like a Night's Watch or a Trump Watch. I don't know.
Just purely for entertainment value, you want a wall on our southern border, not for like practicality or anything.
No, I want the wall, but then still let people come in.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. What about you, JB? What's your take?
I'd have to agree with Howie with this. I think Kasich and Carson pretty much were in line with each other. Kasich basically said, and this is true, this is ridiculous, ludicrous, I think he said, to suggest we're going to deport 11 million people. That's more people that live in Portugal or Belgium or Dominican Republic. You're talking about deporting a nation's worth of people out of the United States. It's impossible.
Excellent point.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. The cost alone. I mean, I think we're all. I also am on Team Kasich. Rico, do you have any other candidates you'd like to back?
No, I think Kasich was obviously the most reasonable one. The interesting thing I kind of thought was that Trump somehow wasn't the most ridiculous one, and I don't agree with his plan at all. But Cruz seemed even worse because Trump at least said, "Well, the good ones." However, vaguely he'll define that one can come back. Cruz is just like, nah, they're all gone. And if they have kids here, oh, well, it basically sounded like the 2-year-old gets to stay and all his family's gone.
Just rolls around the dirt. Go ahead, baby. Fend for yourself.
Okay. That's a great solution, Ted. But
I don't understand how that's like a Christian position to be like, the hell with those people. They're out and they can never come back. You can't be you broke a law. You can never be forgiven. You're out for good.
It's too bad there's not somebody ballsy enough on stage that's like, atheist or whatever that can call them out on that kind of hypocrisy.
I mean, I'm not evangelical. I was raised Catholic, but in the Catholic Church, like, you sin and then you like repent and you're forgiven. I guess not in Ted Cruz's faith.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's some hypocrisy too, I thought, with Rubio, because he was talking about the executive order Obama put through giving amnesty, obviously centered around the same topic of babies that are, anchor babies, as they call them, if you're not PC.
But, well, no, those weren't anchor babies. So those were illegal children who came. They're born someplace else, but they came so young.
Okay, sorry.
That, like, the United States is the only country they basically have ever lived in. Like,
right. My mistake. But he was basically against the executive order that Obama said, saying that they were forgiven. And I just thought it was hilarious because he's lambasting executive orders, which I also hate. But then I thought to myself, you know what? Rubio's so bloodthirsty. When it comes to war in the Middle East and building up the military and yada, yada, yada. I'm like, do you think he would have Congress declare war? Because I doubt he would. I'm almost 99.9% positive he would just go ahead, use his executive privilege as president to go ahead and start some wars under there.
Yeah, all of these guys, they don't like executive actions when it's Democrats doing it. And I guarantee you they would all do the same thing for their neocon, hawkish reasons. And it's the only person I would believe on something like this is Rand, because he's the only one who's proven consistently that he sticks to principles for the most part. But I don't believe any of this follow the Constitution nonsense they talk about.
Yeah, it's just they like to reference it, just like they like to reference Ronald Reagan. It's a thing to toss out there, but it's when it doesn't serve their purposes, it's a moot point. By the way, I want to mention before we move on from immigration that the moderator, and I don't know her name because they said it at the beginning and I missed it. And I don't think they ever showed it again underneath. But the moderator that must have been from Telemundo was the worst. I mean, dumbest questions I've ever seen asked in a debate. This meaningless. I know she's trying to play up to the Hispanics that are watching, but it was like, just, hey, Hispanics don't like you. What do you think about that? It's like, okay. You're like, how are you supposed to respond to that? I don't know. Well, they do like Trump was like, they do like me. They love me, the Hispanics. And then he was like, hey, the GOP should maybe they should go after Hispanics and get Hispanics to vote for them. It's like, yeah, that would be great. What is the point of this stupid question?
Maybe the Hispanics that hate Trump are the ones that can't vote because they're here illegally anyways. I bet you, if you came here legally and had to jump through 10,000 hoops to do it and you went through all that, you're not going to want other people to be able to just not have to go through
I'm willing to bet that most immigrants who came here legally or not most, but a fair percentage have some kind of connection to someone here illegally, be it a friend or another family member, someone in their, that goes to their church. I think it's kind of naive to think that, just because you're here, you went through the legal process doesn't mean, or that means that you're going to automatically get everyone else out. I think that's ignoring probably the real world.
Well, I can speak from experience. You guys know I'm a first-generation American. So I was born here, but my family wasn't, at least the other generation. And my girlfriend is actually an immigrant from Turkey on top of it. And neither of those two groups are particularly fond of illegal immigration, exactly for the reason that Howie mentioned. It took a hell of a lot of time, effort, and money for my girlfriend to come here from Turkey and stay here legally. And to think that anyone can just waltz in and do whatever they want and get away scot-free from it and get amnesty doesn't sit very well with her. And I understand perfectly why it wouldn't, because it was hard for her to get over here. And she didn't know anyone. She had no friends here, no family here.
Don't like a lot of people from Mexico too dislike people from Puerto Rico because it's so easy for them. They get all the benefits of being a state, even though they're not. And it's like, to come from Mexico is so hard, but.
Well, they should have let us take them over in the Mexican-American War, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it.
JB.
What do you want me to say to that?
you got my vote. And
Puerto Rico is part of the United States as of the end of the Spanish-American War, so they're American citizens. As simple as that. You're not.
History professor Lubin.
Yeah, way to go. But
I'm just saying, when one group has to do something difficult and someone else doesn't, it'll oftentimes breeds resentment. And so he very well may have a lot of Hispanic support from voting people.
No, the polls. There have been polls that have showed that a lot of people that are from, doesn't matter what country you're from. Yeah, you pretty much resent anybody that's just getting it for free when you had to go through it. So
it's like when you pledged. It's like when you guys pledged fraternity and you had it so much easier than me and Mark. It was like,
oh, please, we don't need to get into this.
And Rico.
And don't worry, as Rico mentioned in our live blog, we're going to go to Trump University. And as I suggested, we'll start a fraternity there. We'll spell out his name and in Greek letters, and it'll be fantastic. And then we'll all be pledging on equal terms.
Where is Trump University? Do we have to move somewhere? Or is it like an online school?
It resides in the hearts and minds of very angry Americans. That's where Trump.
Did anyone ever hear of this before the debate? Trump University.
This was the first time I've ever heard of it.
It has to be tied in with The Apprentice or something like that, where he launched it so that people could see, how well he's mentoring people, and then they get an education in how to be a Trump.
People borrow $36,000. I just Googled it. There are people that borrow $36,000 to go to Trump University
just to be told that they should have had a very rich father.
Is it accredited?
I don't know. I'd have to look more into it.
$36.
Borrowing $1 to go to Trump University seems like a bad plan.
Maybe Trump's education plan can be just let everyone attend Trump University for free.
Yeah.
There you go, Bernie.
Love it.
Touche.
Take that, Sanders. Let's move on. Let's move on from immigration. How about we segue into religion? Because they spent a lot of time talking about religion and religious rights, especially, it comes up with everybody likes to talk about how Israel is our greatest ally, which drives me up a frickin' wall. But I mean, does anybody have a good take as far as religious liberties? I know I have one guy in mind who does, but what do you guys think? Does anybody out there actually have a take that libertarians can get behind where it comes to, religious freedom?
What are they talking about when they're talking about religious freedom? I'm confused because it seems like they're talking about their religion should be able to do whatever, they want to do. But if they don't agree with someone else's religion, well, the first religion trumps the other one, the outside religion. Right. They never really kind of got into that, but that's my
you nailed it. I think everyone on that stage is awful on this issue.
When they say religious liberty, they're specifically talking about one aspect of it, is that the freedom to discriminate based on your religion.
Precisely.
That's the question. That's the topic they all answered on. Not freedom from religion, which I'm a strong proponent of. Freedom to discriminate on others based on your faith. And this is what pretty much everyone on stage was perfectly okay with.
It was in the news the other day. Kasich wants to start a government organization to spread Judeo-Christian values. And
see, what's crazy about that though is Kasich was the one guy on stage who actually had a good comment on it. And this is, again, it's going to be coming around to comment of the night, but it comes into play here is that he said, when it comes to actually running a business and discriminating, he said, you know what, don't do that. You run a business, conduct commerce, say a prayer for them later and hope that they change their behavior. But otherwise, what the hell are you doing? Don't tell them they can't come in and have a cookie, which I thought, that's a better take than anybody else on stage.
Well,
definitely.
I think they're missing the point though, in the point that you should be able to discriminate. If you have a business and you don't want to serve gay people or black people or women, I mean, that's your right to not serve them, but the market will say, okay, well, a different business is going to come into the area that's going to serve, gay people or women or blacks. And that business is going to put your bigoted business out of business. And that's the better answer than having government involvement.
Precisely, especially in the age of social media. I mean, Yelp's out there. Yelp has destroyed many a business for being prejudiced against certain people.
Yeah, if you want to be bigoted, go ahead, and you're going to be out of business soon, and good riddance. There you go.
I do think that the government should not be able to discriminate, though, because they represent us all and should not.
No, I think that's already.
But I'm totally with you. Private people should be able to do what they want. If they want to be assholes and bigots, I'm not going to their place. And if they don't want to hire the best workers because of race or religion or sexual orientation, good, because I'll hire them.
Yeah, and there's already the 14th Amendment is equal protection. So that's deals with the government or a government agency discriminating. That's obviously unconstitutional. But if you're a private person, go ahead and be a dinosaur and, go extinct. That seems to be the answer. But I think I don't know what they were, their main point was probably there shouldn't be gay marriage or, abortion, shouldn't be legal. I think that's pretty much what they were talking about.
Basically,
without
that was the note of it.
Yeah.
And I think, did anybody say that the government shouldn't be involved in enforcing it? It might have been Kasich again.
What he said was, I think he said that he didn't really believe in gay marriage, but the courts have ruled on it. So let's move on.
Yeah,
I think he said he didn't believe in it, but if someone he knew was gay and they're getting married, he'd go to be nice. But
even Dick Cheney, his daughter was a lesbian too, I think, right? And she got married, and
that's one of the things. I mean, I like a lot of stuff that Trump says, but his anti-gay marriage, I'm going to turn that back as soon as I'm president.
How's he going to do that?
I don't understand. I feel like he doesn't really believe it or mean that, but who knows? I mean, I guess you got to take him at their word.
Well, he also says that he's, very pro-life, but he's been a supporter of Planned Parenthood, and I don't believe that either. I agree. I think he's probably pro women's rights and pro-choice, which of course I am also.
He said some good stuff about Planned Parenthood actually recently, saying that they do a lot to help a lot of women.
Right? Yeah.
He said it tonight.
He said that in the debate,
and then he followed up with, "Well, we should still defund it."
Right? Yeah, which is ridiculous. And then how about Ted Cruz then vowing in his final closing statements that vowing to prosecute Planned Parenthood, which meanwhile anybody that knows anything about the government trying to prosecute anything, look at the steroid scandal. Because it's cost so many millions of dollars. It'll probably cost us more to prosecute Planned Parenthood than it would just keep on paying them $500 million a year.
It's ridiculous. And that's such a small amount of money from what the government's budget. Come on, let's fix the real problem. Let's stop arguing about all this shit that doesn't really matter that much.
That's all they did today was argue about shit that doesn't really matter.
If we want to talk about money problems, let's talk about how much we're spending on these occupations in foreign nations, all the wars we're getting involved with. Let's talk about how untenable the Social Security system is and all the what's it called when there's all the things we're gonna have to pay for, but it's not really budgeted for, unfunded liabilities.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that stuff, the things, the Social Security, the Medicare, Medicaid, things that if you even mention it, seniors go crazy and you don't get elected. That's the stuff that's got to be tackled. These other, it's Planned Parenthood is a fraction of a penny in comparison.
Yeah.
It's
that was kind of goes along with what Trump was saying, where he said, eliminate the Department of Education and whatever other, kind of small.
EPA.
The EPA.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to balance the budget. It's like,
and then he doesn't bring up the fact that Trump's the only guy on stage that really wants to avoid getting in these massive conflicts in the Middle East, even though he still wants to build up the military, which doesn't make any sense. Why are we building up the military if we're not going to use it anyway? But it's like, if he really wants to tout how he's going to pay for all these tax cuts, talk about how you're not going to go to wars anymore. You're saving billions upon billions every day.
Yeah. It's Trump, of the Republicans left, Trump has the best foreign policy. He said a couple things that are totally contrary to what he usually says. But it's like, when is he telling the truth? He really seems to be for not getting involved in things. And, a lot of times dictators better than letting radical Islamist rebels take over. And it's not in America's interest to destabilize all these places. That seems to me to be what he believes. The other times when he does say things about, I'm going to go and do this, it just sounds like he's trying to have that like tough guy persona, which sells. It is working. I mean, I really think that's just it to get the votes and win. The same thing with these super conservative ideals that are like a new thing to him, like the pro-life, the, anti-gay, all this. He did say this years ago. I think this is just, he's like, I know how to get Republicans to vote for me. I need to say this stuff.
Right.
But speaking of that, I thought he did something that was incredibly bold, not even just for a Republican candidate, but for anyone in American public office. He pretty much said we were better off with Saddam Hussein in office.
Yeah.
Now, how many other people you think on that stage would say something like that, just out loud and very direct? He said we were better off with Gaddafi, we were better off with Hussein than we are now.
Yeah, now that Rand Paul's gone, nobody's going to say that. And it's totally right, because Saddam, people don't realize, like, Saddam was a horrible, cruel guy. And he was like, he traipses around, he like lopping off people's ears. And, it's like if you cross him, he'd kill you, he'd kill your family, tear your dog's legs off, shove up your wife's ass, all sorts of horrible things. But it was highly effective. You got to give him credit for that. Very effective. And the terrorists did not want to mess with him.
And on top of that, nothing has really changed in that region. Those things are still happening. Now ISIS is doing them.
It's
so
worse.
Really, how is that any better?
Right.
I'm
but
so
ISIS is
glad
an official government.
Jeb out too.
Yeah.
When Jeb keeps being like, oh, my brother kept us safe. No, he didn't. The largest attack of my lifetime happened under your brother's watch. He did not keep us safe.
Right. And why did it happen? Because of all the interference in the Middle East.
It's like, are you kidding me? Trump was like the first person to actually come out and say, no, he dropped the ball, and they, there was some information that an attack might be coming, and they didn't stop it.
Yeah.
What about when Rubio said, well, the U.S. didn't really have any involvement in Gaddafi's overthrow?
It's bullshit.
Just lying. Trump was right. He's lying.
There was no one on the ground there kind of inciting or helping out with that situation. I don't believe that for a second.
I like that it's just a picture of a little U.S. soldier dressed in all white and a little U.S. soldier dressed in red sitting on the shoulders of these rebels like, hey, go ahead, take them out. Yeah. You want to do it. And the other guy's like, don't do it. You'll destabilize the region. Do it.
Family Guy skit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, exactly. It's like, come on. There's always these guys doing ops, undercover. They call them something different, though. I'm trying to remember what the name is. Anybody recall what they call them? They're not operatives, but they have a code name for them. It's like, assistants or something. They send them over and they claim the soldiers are pulled out, but they leave these special people there in the hundreds. And of course, they're just like, black ops guys training people and doing covert missions.
Right.
Yeah. It's the whole foreign. John Kasich really betrayed me tonight. After the last debate, he had said he was against regime change. It took a very similar stance to Donald Trump when it came to the Middle East. He had said, if we get involved with regime change, all it does is destabilize the region. And look what happened with Iraq. So he was on that same train. And then I was, singing his praises. Go Kasich. Oh, maybe he's up and coming. Maybe he's the new libertarian darling. What an asshole I have been. Because tonight, the topic of North Korea came up, and he's all about it. All about it. Do you guys remember what he said?
About it.
Oh, he's all about it.
I thought he said it. Well, it depends on the circumstance, which is definitely.
Well, no, but him just saying I am for regime change in North Korea to Kim Jong-un, that's them's fighting words. That's like an act of war, just going out and publicly announcing and saying that you want to depose him and remove him from power.
Yeah, and he wants to embargo. He wants to put he basically said he wants to stop their ships from going through. I mean, that's basically picking a naval blockade, which is an act of war. That is an act of war.
Ron Paul always said, sanctions are like acts of war. They always end up leading to it. It's just these antagonizing things.
Right. And there's no way that you can say, I mean, you can't say, oh, well, I'm against regime change in one area, but I'm totally for it in another area. Because, again, there's all these unintended consequences that come from that. You can't just pick and choose, and say where you're going to selectively apply things. It's kind of like looking at rights and liberties. People like to selectively apply. Okay, we'll apply the Constitution here. We'll let it go there. Like when it comes to detaining people indefinitely and Guantanamo Bay. But you can't do the same thing with regime change where you're just kind of saying, I'll use it here and I won't use it there. It depends on the situation. Because it always is going to be bad. Like, there's no situation where it hasn't ended badly.
Dude, Trump saying that, not only am I going to be neutral with Israel, but we shouldn't be paying for the defense of South Korea and Japan and Germany, all these places. It makes me, I want to go out and vote for him in the primaries. I mean, come general election, I'm going to vote for the Libertarian candidate, I'm sure. But
well, he didn't talk about defunding Israel, though. Or in addition to, I mean, he said he would be neutral, but he's not saying, let's pull our booby out of the mouth and let them fend for themselves.
How ridiculous was Rubio with the statement that, well, the Palestinians are teaching their 4-year-old kids to shoot the military in Israel or whatever it was that he said.
Oh, to hate Jews, I think he said
every Palestinian is just training their kid to be a terrorist. It's beyond absurd.
There's atrocities on both sides there. It's like neither side has clean hands.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, look, when it comes down to brass tacks, they've made a lot of pacts where Israel's not supposed to keep expanding the colonization of the Gaza Strip and building these settlements, but they keep doing it. They keep making pacts and they keep breaking them. So really, I mean, I'm sorry, a lot of the blame is on Israel. And when you look at the situation, just the amount of weaponry they have, the effectiveness of their weaponry, it's like Palestinians attacking Israel. It would be like if you're going up to somebody's house and egging it, and then that person in the house responded with a Gatling gun and just mowed down, you and all your friends. It's like 10 times the deaths on that side. So, it's just the media plays it up, and AIPAC is such a powerful group in the U.S., both in funding and in just political power, where it gets skewed so heavily as far as the narrative being told. And it's really, I mean, it's kind of sad. I'm not saying that Pakistan or the Palestinians are right necessarily in everything they're doing, but we're not getting the full story.
I personally, Brian, I don't think that's fair, because regardless of who has the better weapons, if we were put in that position and, for example, Canada managed to kill maybe 5,000 or 6,000 American citizens and were able to destroy Toronto in 20 minutes, doesn't mean they should be able to do it and get away with it. It has nothing to do with, firepower.
Well,
as far
I think
as
it does.
Defending your people. How many dead Israelis are okay before they're allowed to retaliate?
JB, if you look up the stats for the deaths and the amount of injuries that have been caused by Palestinians attacking Israelis, it is like 10 people. I mean, they hardly ever do any damage. They hardly kill anybody.
That's exactly my point. What is the threshold? How many people do you have to wait to die before you can do something?
Well, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to wait for 25 people to die, but the attacks coming over they're so minuscule, and the response from Israel is overwhelming, but it doesn't do anything. It's not deterring anything.
The disproportionate response is just immoral.
Right.
It's just wrong to react that would kill so many people and cause so much destruction and ruin so many lives for something much smaller.
And it's not that they're not attacking the government. The people that are attacking Israel aren't necessarily the government half the time either. So, you're just mowing down a lot of innocent people. The people they're killing are not the people that are attacking them anyway. They're dropping bombs and they're killing they're killing women and children and tons of innocents. They're not even getting the people that they want to be killing. So it's just a wasted effort that's causing a ton of loss of life and
perpetuating, bad feelings, to put it mildly.
So what do you think is the alternative to that?
Well, one alternative would be for Israel to stop expanding. That's one opinion. But I mean, look, if there's going to be a peace eventually, just because, they can't. Well, maybe there won't. Maybe they'll just fight forever. But I think a solution is just simply that both respect their borders, maybe open up trade, stop having embargoes to that region so that people can actually survive and make a decent living. And once people's means of living starts to raise, they have a lot less incentive to start whipping grenades at people because they have a lot more incentive to live. They don't want their kids to die.
That's true.
So, that's my take on it. Anyway.
Yeah, well, speaking of embargoes, to kind of change the subject a little bit, does anyone else just kind of roll their eyes when Trump is going at talking about the Chinese and the Mexican trade imbalance and how he's going to, start a trade war?
Yeah,
that doesn't really help anything, because then people in the United States lose with a trade war. You can't just say, well, we're going to put a tariff on everything from China or Mexico, because then everyone in the United States is paying more money for those products that they got for 25% less or 50% less.
Yeah.
And plus, to talk about China manipulating its currency is the ultimate hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone else doesn't just say, what the hell are you talking about? The Federal Reserve does this on a daily basis. And the only reason our dollar hasn't collapsed is probably because China's buying our treasury bonds.
Yeah,
still,
exactly.
So.
It's just because it's the reserve currency of the world. As soon as that's gone, which, like Russia and China and Brazil were already talking about changing over to the yuan or the Chinese renminbi, then as soon as that happens, the dollar's done, man. Start wiping your ass with it.
Well, I don't think it'll be done because, China has too much invested in our dollar to want to see it collapse, completely. But you can't just start a trade war and say, oh, everything's going to be made better by doing this. It's such a simplistic argument that just doesn't hold up at all.
Didn't
he's never called on it.
Well, didn't you have a line about Trump wanting to start a trade war to have Mexico pay for the wall he wants to build?
Yeah.
I heard part of the way he was going to pay for it is just withholding the money that we give to Mexico and all that kind of stuff.
You mean like federal aid?
Which they can't really do anything about not paying if we do it that way.
Does anyone think this wall is actually going to do a damn thing?
No.
No.
If El Chapo can build a tunnel out of prison, I'm sure they can build a tunnel under the wall.
Probably hundreds of tunnels under the border already.
Yeah. I still want the wall, though.
Well, what's going to be funny is when they build the wall, and then because of all the tunnels under the wall just collapses down into the tunnels. It just ends up being total rubble. And then they must climb over it.
What was this wall with Canada business that happened towards the end? I started getting a little dozy, so I didn't really pick up what was going on there. But
the Univision woman
was a wall with Canada as well.
The Univision woman was claiming that more terrorists and criminals come through the Canadian border, and why doesn't he want to build a wall up there? And Trump's just like, well, first of all, that's like 4 times the size, that border, and I don't believe that the problem's worse up there. Yeah. He's like, it's like you could quote whatever stats you want, but I don't believe it.
He had a funny line though. He's like, at some point he was like, we're going to build a wall in Canada and Canada's going to pay for it.
Yeah, he did say that. That's when I was just like, what? It woke me out of my stupor. I was like,
oh my gosh. I totally zoned out and missed that part.
That was a pretty funny line he had.
Wow. I just imagine like hundreds of Mexicans running up to like a wall in the middle of nowhere with a 12-foot ladder and just climbing right on over.
Well, it's impossible to police. I mean, it's still impossible to police it.
Yeah.
Unless you're just spending millions and millions of dollars every day on it, on top of the expense of building the wall, which is crazy.
Well, Mexico.
Mexico would be so much nicer if we didn't have our drug war like ruining their nation. Like, fix that problem and no one's going to want to come here.
Yeah. Which Trump's the only one really yelling about the drug war. Do you notice that tonight? Nobody else even touched on it at all.
He wasn't. Yeah, to me, it didn't sound like the drug war. He was just saying like, there's a huge heroin problem. Like, well, yes, there is. He wasn't saying, I don't know. He's not like, we got to throw people in jail. We got to do this and that. He's even like, he's for medical marijuana. He's for maybe limited, personal use. He's like, he's definitely like outside of Bernie Sanders with who's left in the best on drugs. But he does harp on that crap about like, but it's true. There's a huge heroin problem in New Hampshire. And you know what? States that legalize marijuana, their opioid problems go way down.
Oh, of course.
So,
these problems come from, Rico, you work with a lot of disability legal cases, but a lot of these, these people get put on painkillers, like powerful opiates.
Yeah.
And when those opiates run out, where do they turn? Heroin. Because it's much cheaper and it's much easier to find than buying pills on the street, which are a lot more expensive and more difficult to obtain.
Doctors prescribe pain medication way, way, way too much. It's irresponsible behavior. I don't know why they would do it, other than to probably just get the patients off their back. But it's not helping anything. And people get hooked.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It goes badly.
Vermont's Senate today voted to legalize marijuana, but their House, I don't know if they're going to go for it. They're complaining about their huge drug problem there with heroin and opioids. They're like, do we really want another drug problem? Where the facts are, it will help you with that other problem. It'll, you get some people smoking weed and they won't be doing dangerous drugs anymore.
Well, and it's not even considered a gateway drug anymore by the most prolific organization to fight drugs that any of us had in our youth, DARE.
DARE.
Oh, it's no longer listed as a gateway drug.
They took it off. It's no longer a gateway drug. Even DARE has come around, man, with that sweet ass logo. Man,
actually, Mothers Against Drunk Driving called here one night trying to, I don't know what they wanted me to sign something. They called you
personally? They're like, hey, stay off the road, drunkie.
Yeah, they wanted
every night. Their nightly call to Howie.
They wanted my support. But anyways, I started arguing with them about how ridiculous it is that marijuana is illegal and that it's a lot safer. And they're like, you know what? You're right. We totally agree with you. I was like, really? I'm still not supporting you on this drunk driving stuff, but okay.
How he's winning over Mothers Against Drunk Driving on the marijuana war, one solicitor at a time. Good job. Keep up the good fight.
They're like, we weren't expecting this response to our call. Is there such a thing as a gateway drug now? Because I'm not aware of any other gateway.
Alcohol?
Well, like we just talked about, prescribed painkillers. That is the gateway drug.
I guess so, yeah.
I think that's the most sensible use of the term I've ever heard. I used to think the term gateway drug was complete horseshit. But the prescription pill, getting on that and then getting it cut off and then needing that fix, I think that's probably the most appropriate use of the term gateway drug that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And of course, it's illegal because they've been prescribed.
Oh, and how about the fact that the best cure for opioid addiction, Iboga or Ibogaine, is illegal in the U.S.?
Yeah, that's right.
But it's super effective, and it's legal in Canada and Mexico.
Is the UK
so Canada, because Canada, since they have socialized healthcare, they can't afford to have people hooked on heroin. So they're like, we're going to use an effective treatment to get them off of it.
Yeah, the U.S. just likes to ignore it or throw them in jail, where then they die of withdrawal.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Well, while we're talking healthcare, this is a perfect time to segue into a little bit of healthcare talk. Of course, everybody's against Obamacare. We don't need to go too deep into that. But a couple of people had very interesting ideas about what to do with healthcare. Donald Trump, of course, said that they were going to have doctors at hospitals are going to take these people and we're gonna work out and it's gonna be a good price. That was basically.
Are you being Bernie Sanders?
I don't know. I don't do a good Donald Trump. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
I might have let everyone down with my hosting duties with my lack of practicing a Donald Trump impression leading into this. But screw Trump anyway on this. He had nothing interesting to say is my point. He just did his typical thing of promising something without any backup. But there were two people that had very interesting takes, one of which our very own Rico pretty much laid out the plan, which was then voiced seconds later. So Rico, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know if it's really a plan, but my thought is if you're worried about pre-existing conditions, and that does jack up the premiums of everyone quite a bit, but I don't know how many people are really affected by the pre-existing conditions where it couldn't be solved by just expanding Medicare to cover certain pre-existing conditions that would otherwise jack up the rates of everyone. So if Medicare is covering these conditions, certainly the tax burden of the general population is going to go up slightly. But when you compare what most people's insurance premiums have gone up,
right,
like
50,
40%, 100%, whatever the case may be, it seems like if you're paying an extra $5 a year in federal taxes to cover, the Medicare of someone with a pre-existing condition, it's a wash. So I think that problem could be easily solved by that. Now, it's not a very libertarian solution, but it just seems to me to be pretty straightforward and easily done.
Yeah, it is, to your point, it's not a very libertarian solution, but it is one that if you look at all the available options, I would say I'd probably support if it was going to knock out, if it was going to get rid of Obamacare and if it was going to get healthcare premiums way down again to the point where you don't need to have these exorbitant fees covering everybody else. It's not a solution I would necessarily oppose. Maybe morally or theoretically I'd oppose it, but it's not a bad idea. And tell us who kind of ponied off that idea.
Well, it seemed like Kasich 5 minutes later talked about how, and I guess this is true. I don't know. I don't really follow Ohio politics that much, but Medicaid, the state-run kind of insurance program, will start to cover certain pre-existing conditions in Ohio. That was my kind of take on what he said, and then he talked about other things where if doctors keep their treatment costs under a certain threshold, then Ohio would pay them, which that kind of seems like an unnecessary point.
Well, I can understand the perspective there. I think he's coming from is that so many doctors nowadays, they go out of their way to do it's all about not getting sued. So they go out of their way to do all these crazy amount of tests, and that's what really jacks up the costs of a lot of insurance and a lot of payments. So maybe that's what he's enticing to say. Just do the ones that you think are really necessary, and we'll pay you more money in exchange. I still don't support the idea, but I think that's probably where it's coming from.
I think that kind of gets into government control of a person's medical treatment because
I
the
don't feel
doctor's
comfortable
worried
with that
about
I agree.
Well, I don't know if I want to order a CT scan of your head just because you come in here with headaches every day because maybe you're just making it up, or they're worried about the cost. Well, their first kind of duty should always be to the patient.
Right. Well, and also now they're kind of jockeying to see, okay, how much can I save to get more government cash coming my way?
Exactly.
I don't know the answer to healthcare, but one thing that I do know is the prices of every single thing that I buy just keep going down, except for the two things the government subsidizes: healthcare and education.
Yeah.
Those two things keep getting more and more expensive. Everything else, whether it be computers, TVs, phones, anything, it's just the prices just go down. We could have all these different plans, but I just feel like if the government's got a mess, like, we're going to give them more money if they do it this way. We're going to give them more money to do this. Well, you're just going to make things more expensive like you always do by subsidizing it. They're just going to adjust to okay, what do we do to get the government's money? How do we get the most from them? When people are still not going to be shopping around. They're not going to care.
The thing about they're talking about eliminating the state lines so there can be more competition. That's a good idea. Yeah. But how many companies really are in a position to kind of compete? It's kind of like the airline industry, it seems to me, where there's 4 airlines and they're competing, but they're not really competing because they all have the same prices because they know what the other person's charging. So it's all kind of collusion.
Yeah.
And I don't really, with the amount of, I don't think there's that many healthcare companies that could effectively.
Hey man, free market. Then you got to hope some other healthcare company starts up and says, "Hey, we're going to charge you a hell of a lot less," and spurs it on. Let's start our own Lions of Liberty Healthcare.
Yeah, I think. It's a good idea, but I don't see the immediate impact that act like it's going to have.
Well, maybe nothing. There's no harm in doing it and seeing what happens, though. There's no negative to come from it.
I don't think so either. It just. If that's your plan, well, you're not going to be very popular in a few years. I don't see that making a big immediate change.
Yeah. What did you guys
no one
think
else?
I don't know.
I was going to say no one else really seemed to have, other than what Kasich said, no one else really had any kind of specifics.
Well, Ben Carson had what I thought was a fairly interesting idea. He kind of went into the personal healthcare savings account. Essentially, he called it something different. He called it like a health empowerment account, which was an odd phrase. But he went into a personal savings account essentially for healthcare. But he had an interesting idea about how you would then pool it with your relatives to make a sort of, I guess your own little insurance pool among your friends and relatives, and you can transfer your healthcare savings back and forth.
Just one more way for the baby boomers to continue to soak us and I'm getting sick. Can we just borrow some of your health empowerment account money? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that falling apart very quickly.
Yeah, I so could I. But I mean, I give him credit for having a novel idea, but he also put emphasis on then, obviously Obamacare would be gone, and putting more emphasis on having catastrophic insurance coverage was what he was saying. It's bringing that back, and that way, you're pooling this money and you have this reserve fund where you can pay for catastrophic healthcare insurance.
Am I the only one skeptical that if, like, say, Rubio or Cruz happened to be elected president, that Obamacare would really immediately be overturned? I see them hedging once they get in office somehow, some way.
They can't unilaterally
the Senate.
Right? I know they can't. The Republicans control the House and Senate. I understand it's going to take everything, but I just the way it happens whenever a conservative gets into office, they don't really stay conservative. They're big government like GW.
Yeah, I don't.
Can anyone think of anything that's ever been repealed the minute the second party, the other party, goes into office? Has anything ever been drastically changed that much?
Bill Clinton repealed off some clothes on interns. Thank you. No, I can't.
Yeah, I'm sure there has been something, but off the top of my head, no.
Maybe a war. People are like, again, the Vietnam War. Maybe that got repealed quickly.
I'm sure Reagan repealed something Jimmy Carter did.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm repealing your popsicle subsidies, you tard.
Is that real, by the way? I need to know.
The popsicle subsidies?
That myself.
Yeah.
They probably are. I mean, hell, sugars are subsidized. That's a part of a popsicle.
Popsicles for humanity.
It's like most of a popsicle.
P's for H's. That's what they call it for short. All right. Let's wrap this up. We're getting a little deep into the weeds here. So let me segue into closing things out here. Who had the line of the night, guys? What do you think? Who had the line of the night? I want to hear, number one, who do you think had the line of the night? And if you can remember it, great. And number two, who do you think had the best performance?
Well, I think my favorite line of the night, I don't remember the exact phrase, but when Rubio was going after Trump for employing, which was bizarre. Apparently he employed illegal Polish workers 30 years ago. And somehow he tried to make a big deal about it, like anyone would really give a shit. And Trump's like, well, you've never employed anyone.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
That was a drop the mic moment. That was fantastic. Yeah. So who do you think had the best performance tonight?
Oh my God. It was, I guess, Kasich, but because Carson barely was there. And then Rubio, Cruz, and Trump were just involved in this nonstop bickering, talking over each other, complete mess that Wolf allowed to go on. So, yeah. I mean, it was just a shit show.
Well, and Wolf had the worst debate performance. We know that much.
Wolf definitely did a very poor job. So he needs to step up his game for the next one whenever he's going to host it again. So I guess by process of elimination, I'll say Kasich. You're right. The foreign policy left a lot to be desired. Quite disappointing. But I think he made a couple of reasonable points, which more I can say for really anyone else.
Right. He said a bunch of crazy stuff too that I've written him off completely.
Yeah, this debate
because of tonight's performance, because of things he said tonight, I'm like, there's no way I could ever support him.
Well, he's gone back to where I don't know what he's actually ever stands on anymore. It's just bizarre.
But who can you support?
Are you talking about Kasich?
Yeah, Kasich.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that in my closing statement.
Sorry.
Well, go for it,
no,
baby.
It's fine.
Go ahead, JB. You're up. Who's got the best line and who had the best performance?
I already said my best line at the beginning, that I love Ben Carson's line about pleading someone to attack him so he could have something to say.
That was funny. That was the most interesting thing Ben Carson has ever said.
Yeah.
Ever. Except for my thing I'm going to say later on, but I'm glad he didn't say it. Keep going.
And I was going to buck the trend. I was going to say who had the best debate. I'm going to say who disappointed me the most. And I would have to go with John Kasich. With his North Korea regime change talk, with his talking about supporting the rebels in Syria, arming the Ukrainians. He basically said he would lock up Tim Cook in a room and force him to come to a deal with the FBI, whether he wanted to be there or not.
Yeah.
So he wanted to hold Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, hostage.
Yeah, actually, that's called kidnapping, John.
Yeah,
What
he proposed is called kidnapping. Towards the end, everything he said was ridiculous, and he kind of let me down as the guy who was the least ridiculous on stage. He's kind of playing up to that now. So he definitely disappointed me the most tonight.
Yeah, we were calling him the most reasonable candidate at the beginning of the debate, and then he slowly diverged into being the craziest person on stage.
Clearly, he's not listening to us anymore. Come on.
Tune in. He better get back on it, man. All right, Howie, what about you?
My favorite part was, I don't know what the guy's name was. So was it Hugh Hewitt? Is that his name?
Yeah, Hugh Hewitt.
He was asking Trump about, he's like, on my radio, you said you were going to release these taxes and this and that. And Trump's like, well, the good news is not too many people listen to your radio show.
That was good.
And I was just like, oh, nice. But now I wonder if more people listen to Lions of Liberty than Hugh Hewitt. I'd like to find out.
I don't know who he is, if that counts.
Well, if I keep hosting, they will.
I mean, I've seen him on these debates a couple times, but I follow politics stuff all the time, and I don't really not that familiar with him. But I think Trump did the best. Like everybody else was just completely crazy to me, the things they were saying in support of Israel and intervention in places, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
If I were to vote in the Republican primary, for sure I would vote for Trump. There's no way I could vote for any of those other clowns.
You're right. I switched my vote. Trump was involved in the chaos with the debate, but that was mainly because Rubio and Cruz wouldn't stop talking over him and trying to pick fights to score points, which really didn't work.
Forget that all plays into Donald Trump's strengths anyway. That when there is chaos, Donald Trump wins because he is, Cruz is a master debater, as we've said, but Donald Trump really excels at one-liners, and he's loud and he's very quick-witted. And when it comes down to that, tit for tat, back and forth, he can whip out a zinger, no problem, and slap people down. So the more it devolves into that kind of, off topic, not getting into deep weeds of actual politics and policy, he's killing it. So there you go. I've revealed I also thought Donald Trump won tonight. Kasich was a massive disappointment.
I agree with our very own Mark Claire, who a few days ago on our forum predicted that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. There's no way he could lose the primary unless the only possible way would be if Cruz and Rubio joined forces and one of them took the second fiddle slot. But that's not going to happen. There's no way.
Yeah.
And then it looks like Hillary will probably win the Democratic nomination. I mean, I'm still hoping that maybe Bernie will pull something off, but she's the worst candidate. She's so corrupt. I can't wait to see Trump go after her on everything, all the corruption, all the stuff that the Bernie Sanders went on. It's going to be a bloodbath.
No, he would absolutely rip her apart. We don't need. I don't want to get into too much of that yet.
There won't be any falling asleep during those debates for sure.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about all these other debates coming up.
Yeah, exactly. So let me say my line of the night, which was Carson and his closing statements. I greatly enjoyed him. Number one, dropping the fact that he was that he was portrayed in a movie because of his magic healing hands by who? By Cuba Gooding Jr. And then asked everybody at home to magically join hands with him through the television to heal the world or something along those lines. And
did you really do it?
I put my hands on the TV like little Carol Ann in Poltergeist. Carol Ann!
I'm ready to pray for him to become president because that would be a long shot. Hail Mary pass, maybe that will pull it off. I don't know.
All right, guys, real quick. I want your predictions for Texas. Give me your top three. Rico, go.
Trump, Cruz, Rubio.
All right. Howie, go.
Trump, Cruz, Rubio.
All right, JB.
I can't imagine him losing his own state, but I think I'm going to have to make it 3 for the same order.
Wow. All right. I'm going to mix it up slightly. I am also going to say that Trump finishes first, but I'm going to put Marco in second and Cruz in third. So I'm going to go Trump.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know Marco's actually in third place in Florida?
That's hilarious, and I love it.
What's he going to do when he loses this election? I mean,
he's going to cry. He's going to get his teddy bear, and his nurse is going to tuck him in and read him a bedtime story.
He's not going to be a senator anymore.
No.
I thought he was aiming for the governorship if he doesn't get the presidency.
He can be mentored by John Kasich, best governor ever. And by the way, also I want to mention, because I haven't mentioned it all show when I really need to get this in, I've been drinking Magner's Irish Cider, which Rico and I enjoyed in Ireland.
Did we? I forgot everything.
Oh, we did. That's why you forgot it. Magner's is fantastic. I highly recommend it. It is my favorite cider. Nice. It is sweet with a little bit of tang, pretty dry, delicious, will not make you sick to your stomach because of the sugar. And also, for those of you who have been listening along to our ramblings, this is episode 188, and you can find this at lionsofliberty.com/188. And you can find all of our podcasts previously at the Lions of Liberty Podcast Archive as well. And please do check that website because we will have show notes for this show, little tits and tats that we'll include. And maybe we'll have a nice shot of Rico modeling his new bathing suit for the summertime. Are you in shape for the summer, Rico?
Always, buddy.
All right, good to hear. All right.
I'm glad you put me on the spot, but don't worry. Six-pack is good.
All right, so guys, just to wrap the show up in the to honor Mark Claire wherever he may be, lying in a ditch somewhere, won't you please join me in wishing everybody a nice live long and live free. Hi, everybody. Brian here. I need to add a quick addendum to this GOP debate podcast because I, as your host, failed in my duties, missing a key topic that was brought up, although briefly during the debate. That is the topic of Apple versus the FBI, where the FBI has asked Apple to create a backdoor so that they may access iPhones, specifically the iPhone for the San Bernardino terrorists, who are now both dead. And, of course, the FBI had requested that the San Bernardino Police Department reset the iCloud password, which then locked the phone down tight. The FBI cannot access it. Apple has refused to acquiesce to the FBI's request that they create a backdoor based on essentially the fact that you cannot create a backdoor for one phone. If you create a backdoor for that operating system, it applies to all of the iPhones, essentially giving the government a skeleton key to all of our phones. I have an iPhone. I'm sure many of you listening have iPhones. I know I'm not comfortable with that. Now, all of the candidates on stage unanimously said that Apple should comply with the FBI's order and should create this backdoor. Of course, some of them had no idea what they're talking about, like Marco Rubio, who doesn't seem to understand that you can't just create a backdoor for one phone, but we'll move on from that. Now, there was one candidate you would have thought would have stood up for the personal privacy rights of Americans, considering some of his actions in the past. For example, taking part in a filibuster of the Patriot Act along with Rand Paul. Yes, we're talking about Ted Cruz. Did Ted Cruz stand up and say Apple was in the right, that the personal privacy rights of Americans needs to be protected and this did not make any sense to do? No, of course he did not. Ted Cruz took the same grandstanding soapbox as the rest of them, calling for Apple to immediately acquiesce and to put all of our privacy at risk for the sake of security. Next time you want to tell me that Ted Cruz is a libertarian in hiding or the most libertarian candidate on stage and that we should support him now that Rand is gone, please take that evidence into account. That being said, until next time, guys, please do live long and live free.